Aloha. You're watching Maui Improv Celebrity Showcase. I'm Kevin Curry, an instructor at Maui Improv, a nonprofit organization dedicated to not only teaching individuals who would learn the art of improvisational theater, but also provide a venue to perform on stage in front of a live audience. Maui Improv offers weekly drop-in classes, and periodically we're lucky enough to host visiting celebrities from the mainland on our Fair Island to teach intensive workshops. So even though Maui might be 2,500 miles away from the mainland, we're fortunate enough to have many top-notch instructors from New York to Los Angeles, and essentially all points in between. Today, I'm excited to introduce our 2023 Celebrity Showcase instructor, who hails from none other than the epicenter of the entertainment industry in America, Hollywood itself, Mr. J.D. Walsh. At this moment, we've completed 2 out of the 3 days of his workshop intensive, and we're planning a performance at Pro Arts Theater in Kihei this Sunday. So viewers watching his program will get to instantly see the end results of his work with the local troupe. Walsh's roles have included parts in various TV shows and films, as an actor, as a writer, as co-executive producer. His most notable being Mackie Nagel on Smart Guy and as Gordon on 2.5 Men. Walsh appeared in the 2014 film The Amazing Spider-Man 2 as an online instructor demonstrating how batteries work. He also wrote and produced and directed his own show, Battleground, which aired on Hulu in 2012. So welcome. That's quite the resume. I'm really happy that you could take the time to visit us here on Maui to share your incredible experience in improvisational theater. Can you tell me when you first started doing improv and what motivated you?
Well, first of all, that's very nice of you. Second, I couldn't have been enjoying my time more here on Maui. I am having a great time with your troupe. I'm very excited for the show that we're doing that people are going to be watching when they watch this video. So I'm honored that you guys are having me, and I really appreciate it. So for your question is what got me involved in improv? Mm-hmm. My first memory is I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and my mom signed me up for some class that was going to be sort of theater for fourth graders through the UW. It was a UW class, and mm-hmm. they were going to have kids come in and do games and stuff like that. And I remember the last night the last night we did a thing where it was sort of a party. Imagine sort of a murder mystery party, but without a murder. Just like people walking around as characters.
Fun. Sure,
yeah. And I remember I got to play a jerk. And I remember having so much fun with that. And I remember excelling at it. And I remember the students really enjoying that. And that was the first time that I thought, oh, this is something that I really enjoy. Because up till then, I didn't really enjoy anything in school. So I would say that was the first thing. Then my drama teacher, my senior year in high school, she was maybe the first teacher that actually enjoyed me in class. I always had sort of a protagonist, antagonist.
The rebel
thing. Well, that sounds like I was cool. I was a jerk. I was just obnoxious. Rebel has a point of view. I was just trying to make people laugh aggressively. So that got me into theater. And then I ended up going to UC Santa Barbara, and there was a Comedy Sports there. Just coincidentally, Comedy Sports had started nearby where I grew up, and there happened to be a satellite one there, and they came to our college orientation. I loved it. I remember going backstage and talking to them about it, and then I got into workshops, and then I started taking workshops and doing shows, and then it became a big part of my life, an important part of my life. I don't actually know where I'd be in life if I hadn't gotten involved in improv, because it was more than just learning how to perform or make up scenes or whatever. I think it also benefited me tremendously in how I communicate and how I talk to people on dates and how I talk to my kids. and how I interact with the world. It has calmed me. So I am, even though that desire and need to be funny is still in me deeply, the way to get there has changed. As opposed to being desperate, obviously desperate, I am calm, and I know if I'm just connected to the other person and I'm taking care of the other person in the conversation, that I will be interesting and funny often, not all the time.
And keep the desperation inside.
It's there, dude.
Yeah.
It's behind an alcoholic dad, just hiding, just peering behind.
Yeah,
You know,
truly.
So
that is, I'm very, I'm almost jealous that you instantly found your passion in college, that you knew. Because so many of us really struggle with that and are spending our parents' tuition money and thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. And it seems like you knew that you had your moment.
I was addicted to it. You know, I was. It was the priority. Maybe dating was a little higher on any given night. Like if I had a date or a party or whatever. But for the most part, I mean, I actually transferred to UCLA, and which was one of the better theater schools in the country. I didn't do any plays there. Every Friday and Saturday, I would drive back up to Santa Barbara, it's about a 2-hour drive, to do shows with my friends up in Santa Barbara, and I would go up every Wednesday for workshop.
Wow, that's quite the commute.
It was quite the commute, but I have only happy memories of it, and I think it was very beneficial to my acting career. I think I think just getting up constantly teaches you of what your essence is on stage and what is the energy that people are picking up from you, whether you enter an audition room or you're on a date or you're in an improv show.
That is one of the things I wanted to ask you, because a lot of people perhaps watching this are interested in budding actors, and they say, I'm going to go, to Hollywood. I'm going to go and well, even on Maui, there's some opportunities.
Yeah.
And I want to do that. And how do I prepare myself? Can you sort of give us the difference between taking, let's say, an acting class versus improv? And are they related? And which comes first if you're going to do both? Or are they necessary?
That's a difficult question, because the improv that I was involved in at the beginning was comedy sports, which is very presentational. And I feel like a lot of people who were in comedy sports and who excelled at it didn't make the transition to TV and film. And I think it's because they were so broad and they couldn't control it. So on one hand, it is so beneficial to be getting up and performing all the time. On the other hand, if it's all broad or something that's not translating to TV and film or your audition on camera, it actually can be negative. My friend Kurt, who was one of the best of comedy sports, had ever played comedy sports, took a lot of acting classes afterwards. And when I see his work on television and film, I say, oh, that's somebody who can do it both. He can be very big and very presentational in a wonderful way in comedy sports, but he can also do subtle bits on television.
And I'll cheat a little bit and tell the audience what we're working. I guess they'll see it. You do an exercise where it's time for a reveal, and then you're doing like your Academy Award moment.
Yeah.
Right. So you're asking improv players to switch from doing perhaps clever improv or situational scenes to dramatic. And I guess improv players will have to pull off their theatrical skills.
Yeah, I mean, you're a great example in that I know from watching you that if you are just committed to a scene and you are as thoughtful and straightforward as you are being right now in real life, that you will be funny. It's not going to be a bummer of a scene, because that is not your essence. You will be funny. You will be interesting. Now, if you and I are desperately trying to be funny, I think you and I will often be funny, but sometimes we will just come across as desperate, and the audience will hate us. And so we're sort of tricking the audience of like you just being in a scene with your mom or a good friend. We're tricking the audience that like, oh, we're not trying to make you laugh. We're just trying to tell a story. It just so happens that it will be funny. It's just trusting that it will be.
That's a really good insight, and as you know, I'm an instructor at Maui Improv, and one of the things that the most difficult thing to teach is to say, don't try to be funny, just be you, and the funny happens. So yeah, very
it's really
good.
hard. It's I think that we chase our entire life that idea that you hear in acting a lot, which is just be you. Like, I don't know who I
Don't
am.
know who that is.
And
right.
who we are when you are sitting at lunch with 2 or 3 of your favorite people and you are completely relaxed and you're sharing your thoughts and feelings about things. That's who you are. And so the question is how do we get that person on stage? And one of the things you might have heard me saying last night is don't turn on when you step forward. Be the same person that you are, but at times be more emotional in the scene because you need
I don't
to be
know
engaged.
that's possible.
No.
Some days.
As opposed to this persona that people have. They step forward and they start having a persona that they have built as sort of a safety net.
That people think that acting is supposed to be that.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be some sort of high-strung character or morose or whatever.
Interesting. I also want to talk about some terms because,
Sure.
of course, you have a degree, so you can define or help define this because a lot of people, their experience with improv, they immediately go to whose line is it anyway, and what we call short form improv.
Sure.
And then there's also something called long form improv, and there's possibly 2 or 3 other forms in between that. Can you help, share the distinction between those two and what we're going to be doing tomorrow night?
Yeah. So short form are the games like Whose Line? And that's really what was very popular in the 80s and 90s. And then I would say out of Chicago, there became more of a sense of being able to tell a longer story. So it might be a series of scenes that tell 3 stories that sort of weave in and out of each other and maybe connect. That would be the Herald coming out of Chicago. And then I would also say that there is a lot of good improv that is just one straight narrative. And that would be improv theater out of LA or maybe musical theater out of New York. Improv where they are telling one story just straight, beginning, middle, and end. I actually enjoy them all. If
that's a lot of variety. That's a lot of variances in an art form, really.
I like doing short form because there's such a safety net to it that there's not a lot of stress for me of like I hope this goes well. I'm just there, just like we're gonna play this silly game and we're just gonna have fun. And so I find I'm at complete ease playing those. Unless it's a game I'm not great at, then I'm a little like, wait, how do we do this? And that happens a lot when you visit teams. They're like, oh, we're going to play this game. And you're like, wait, what? How is it played? But I prefer narrative-based improv, which is scenes that have a point. And that point is that we are telling a story. Now, that can be overarching a story, or it can just be a lot of little stories, a lot of 4-minute stories where we get to view a little bit of somebody's life. I really enjoy that. And I think the audience, when it's done well, enjoys that even more. I think we're addicted to stories.
Yes, stories are great. It's what, I've loved the first 2 workshops that we've done.
You.
Learned a lot about the composition and what makes a good story.
Thanks.
And we're going to be doing some, vignettes after our talk about the best of the show. Can you tell me, because you've taught all over the country and you've interacted with a lot of people. I'm wondering if there's a difference between like the Maui culture, because we're in the middle of the Pacific, 2,500 miles removed from anywhere else. In fact, I think we're so isolated that Hollywood people come here to chill because no one seems to be watching, you know? Do you have a read on it? Are the people here in the workshops any different, or are the motivations different, or is there any?
I really like the vibe here. I have really enjoyed it. I think what I was struck by is a lack of fear that you guys seem to have in your scenes. There was a real sense of I'm just being, and whatever happens, happens. I didn't see a lot of desperation. I think that there needed to be a little bit more of we're trying to tell a story here, as opposed to we're just letting whatever happens, happens. I feel like there needs to be a little bit more story in it. And so so that's been really wonderful to marry those two concepts, a feeling of a lack of desperation on stage with a desire to tell a story, I think makes for a stronger improviser. That's my point of view.
Sure.
So I've really enjoyed that. So yeah, I would say that that's the Maui vibe. I mean, you know, in LA, you got a lot of people who are seeing it more as a path to Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, that's their career. They're hopeful to work in this, and that stakes are high.
Yeah, and so I think there might be a little bit more competitiveness, where here there feels to be more of a community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like I love our community here.
It's wonderful.
We've had people coming to our drop-ins for 10 years.
Really? That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
That's wonderful.
And I'm sure 10 years from now, we'll see some more. One of the other things I think it would be nice to discuss, because I think now improv is becoming more mainstream.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Most people, the improv workshops are popping up across the country, and you hear on television a lot, yes and. Yeah, it's all about yes
Right.
and. So can you expand a little bit more on what yes and means in a scene?
It's so interesting that you say that, because I feel like yes and is often abused. I feel like people at companies see yes and as all my ideas are great and you all need to agree upon my ideas, as opposed to, well, you know, let's spitball ideas. Yes and is embracing what the other person has given you and adding to it and seeing where that goes. And I think the confusion is if that I always have to agree with the idea. And so if you are like in a scene, I packed our bags, everything's ready, the dog is in the cage, and we are ready to go, lights out, let's go. And I say, I don't want to go. That might seem like a denial to your idea. But if we are building a scene together, then the vibe that I've gotten off of you in the scene is you are a high-strung character who is demanding of everybody in the household, and today is the day that I decide not to do that. And I believe that I am truly yes-anding your idea. And what's important to me in improv is that I yes-and what I think you're going for. So part of the responsibility is you being clear with your intentions to let me know, like, hey, this is what I'm going for. And the other idea is me to be listening to what you're saying so that I definitely yes and what I think you're going for.
So you're saying, even though you say, no, I don't want to go, you're saying yes and to the fact that I have a dog. If you said what dog, then that would pretty much break the scene.
Also, there's a piece of it, which this happens a lot, and you'll see it a lot, which is...
Hopefully not tonight.
Well, hopefully not.
Yeah.
Is that you do the scene and you're like, I can't wait for us to be on vacation together and for us to kiss on the balcony and for us to have one-on-one dinners together. And then I go, Grandma, I'm not really into this. Okay? It gets a laugh. However...
It did. That
yeah,
was funny.
yeah. However, it's not yes and. I know what you're going for. You're going for us in a relationship and looking forward to this vacation or whatever.
Yeah.
But I have chosen to disregard everything that you're saying and say, no, that's not what you're going for. I'm saying that you're my grandma. And now we're sort of at the end of the scene because I've denied your reality. And
I've played with that person a couple of times.
It happens a lot.
That just boom, and what are you left with? You're like, okay, now I'm grandma.
Yeah,
you know?
And it does get a laugh. Don't get me wrong. If we did it in front of an audience, it would get a laugh. And then that's it. And what's been interesting to me through my journey in improv is that afterwards I'll ask the audience what they thought of that scene. And the audience will be like, even though it got that big laugh, they'll be like, it was okay. And then I'll ask them about a scene where we did focus in on the relationship and there was a reveal and somebody was surprised. And the audience always loves those scenes more. So I don't think it's just my imagination that a big laugh off of a denial can really ruin a scene or a show.
Oh, very good point. Something else I've always thought that, I've taken a lot of classes over the years, and there seems to be some instructors will come in with a set of like rules and say, don't ask questions, or, that there are no rules. Somebody else will say. Some will say, come in and do object work, which is like holding a cup and, doing certain things. Before speaking, some people say, just bring it right out and speak right away. So can you tell us really, if you're a person who does improv, what they can bring onto the stage that's their toolkit, that's just the easiest thing for them to start a scene with?
I would say it's an intention. And that intention doesn't need to be verbal. It can be physical. It can be focus in on the other person. But it's not confusion. It's not being lost and desperate. It is, this is what I'm doing, audience. And if you'd like to watch it, you can. The reason that we don't ask questions, which is a very common note, is because often those questions in beginner improvisers are coming from a place of, I don't know what's going on in the scene. I'm worried I'm going to be wrong in the scene. And so I'm just going to ask questions, and that person is going to have to improvise answers, and the pressure is off of me. However, if you and I are doing an improv scene, I can say to you like, hey, you want to go out to dinner tonight? That is a question. But I know, and I have set that we have a relationship and that we're comfortable with each other. And that question has an agenda behind it.
And versus where are we?
Yeah. Right. Who are you? What's going on? So there's a lot of that. And we're so worried that we're going to make a mistake. And it's so interesting because that's inherent in the improv art, is the idea of like, we don't know what we're doing. We're making it up. And that is the magic of like, I think you're going for this, so I'm going to yes and that. And where does that lead us to? That's what's interesting. But yet we fear what we've signed up for, which is sort of the unknowing.
Yeah, the fear of the unknown. That's just really looms in most scenes, walking out on stage. And most people, I think a lot of people really wonder if we aren't back in the, in the warm-up area saying, now when you come out, say this, I'm going to be the plumber and you're going to be the doctor and here's the joke. And that really isn't the case. We're divining, we're just letting the data stream from the universe just create lines, but there is structure. There are classes and certain forms of improv that things called a montage or things called a la ronde or a herald. So can you explain what the structure is like and what it does for scenes for actors?
I think the idea is that there is some structure to what your storytelling is, so that the audience has some sort of context, so that they get like, oh, okay, so we're going to see 3 different scenes at the beginning, and then they're going to start weaving into each other as the night progresses.
So the rules, the guidelines, let's say, if people on a back line, they know we're doing a herald, and the 3 of us are going to go out in turn, and we're going to be doing scenes that are disparate. That's really the instruction.
Yeah.
And then they'll tell you.
I think the idea is that somehow people maybe have translated improv into there are no rules. I can do whatever I want, and let's create magic. And I think that there needs to be an agreed upon set of some of those things, but also some structure so that we know what we're doing. I just feel like every time I'm visiting a place and they're like, let's just do a montage. And montage is essentially whatever happens
A
happens.
free for all.
Yeah. I go, I don't know if that leads to the best show. I find the best shows are when we tell stories that have a beginning, middle, and an end, with some fun, crazy scenes where you and I are just making noises throughout the scene, going hoo-ha, yeah, yeah, hoo-ya, yeah, yeah. Okay, that's fine. We're being playful and dumb, but then we're also telling a story later, and that might weave in to what we're telling.
So can you tell us, perhaps as a setup for some of the vignettes we're about to see, what are some of the planned activities for this Sunday show?
Well, I think one of the best things that I can give to you guys is the idea of the Oscar-winning moment. And what it is it's a gimmick from an improv game, which is basically at any point you can yell to somebody, this is your Oscar-winning moment, and they have to step forward and give a passionate speech.
They really liked me.
Yeah. Well, no, not the acceptance speech.
Oh,
not.
I've been
really
working on that for years.
Not Sally Fields, but for what she won for, which I think in that case was Norma Jean. It is the clip that they showed ahead of time, which showed why she was nominated for that scene. And it is it's just a fun improv game. I have found that in telling narratives, it gets performers like yourself to be real and focused and have emotion. And I think that that's important in an improv scene. And so I would guess that we would play a lot of Oscar-winning moment, and I think that we're going to see a lot of people saying the phrase, there's something I need to tell you. And I think once you hear that sentence in a workshop of how to tell stories, I think you're going to hear it a lot in movies and books and TV. You're going to hear a lot of like, Michael, there's something I need to tell you, or some equivalent to it, because it is the news of the day. For example, in Downton Abbey, almost every episode that I remember was them at a breakfast table and a letter came. And the letter was the prime minister's coming for a visit or something. But that letter was, there's something I need to tell you.
The vehicle that they use to just...
Today is the day where blank happens. We never saw an episode of Downton Abbey where everything just was sort of normal and boring, and there was no drama. There was just, we picked apples today, and then we played a game together. No, today is the day where the Duchess is visiting, and she hates a dirty bedroom, so they have to clean the bedroom. That every story has some sort of, there's something I need to tell you. You need to leave the Shire, and you need to go to Mordor.
Wow, that's compelling, and hopefully we'll see a bit of that. Something I need to tell you in the scenes tonight, tomorrow night. Also, speaking of the show, what would make you most proud of the Maui Improv Troupe as you sit and watch us perform?
I would say what would make me the happiest would be if the performers felt good about the show and they were proud that they bought into the idea that if you just tell a story in a committed way, that the audience will like it. The audience will love it. And seeing that and trusting that and it delivering is probably the most important thing to me.
Wow, awesome. Thank you, J.D. Walsh. I want to ask one last question. Where do you go from here? Are you working on any current projects that we should look out for? Are you being a dad?
Yeah. I've got a 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 13-year-old. I just did an episode of Hacks, so that'll be on HBO Max. I'm not sure when, because there was a strike. And then, you know, I write some pilots here and there, and then I just auditioned for Chicago Fire and for the Lyle and Eric Menendez movie.
Wow.
Yeah, that was cool.
That'd be really fun.
That would be very
Very
cool.
dark.
Yeah,
I
very,
like that.
very dark. So yeah, I don't know. I'm also trying to just enjoy the ride a little bit more.
And speaking of
Yeah.
your daughter, you're about to go to the airport to pick her up in
Yeah.
this moment.
Yeah.
She does improv. You
Mm-hmm.
think you're going to step on stage with her and do some improv with us?
My hope is to do that. I'm going to have her come to the workshop, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. I don't want to pressure her to do it, but I also want to give her the opportunity. I also don't want to pressure you guys to be like, hey, my daughter gets to play, right? She's great. I want it to be mutually decided on of like, this would be wonderful. I believe that she will be accepted into the group because your group is so warm and caring, and she's such a sweetheart. Now, if it was my second daughter, she would, you know, I always say that with my second daughter, everything she says to you can be punctuated with a flick of a cigarette butt into your face. She's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, Dad. Well, jeez. So the older one, I think, loves improv, would love to do it, and it'll be a miracle if my second daughter even comes to the show.
Well, that'd be fun if she does show up.
Would
We'll
it?
see.
I
Yeah.
don't know if it would be.
Maybe we'll have a
Be
heckler.
careful what
I'm
you
not
wish
sure.
for. You're going to get a cigarette butt in the middle of your scene in your face.
Thank you, J.D. Walsh,
Thank
for
you for
coming
having
to
me.
visit us. It's just really an exciting opportunity. We look forward to having you back again.
Thanks.
I hope that you've enjoyed your time
I
here.
loved it.
And we would like to also let you know if you would like to try improv for yourself, learn more about how to do improv on Maui, either to attend a drop-in or to get up on stage, you can find us at facebook.com/Maui Improv. And don't forget to look for our next live performance in mid-December as well, with none other than Dave Rosowski.
Oh, he's fantastic.
The man who literally wrote the book on improv. He's coming out of Second City in Chicago with such contemporaries as Stephen Colbert and Stephen Carell. There will be another intensive workshop which anyone could attend. It's open to new players. It's open to people with experience. And as usual, we will follow a performance in December with Mr. Rosowski then. So I'm Kevin Curry. Ahui ho, everyone.